Next thing I want to talk to you about is your interview process. And I know a lot of us have heard this before. They've heard the term group interview, and we've all tried it. And I know that you tried it, but I want to challenge you here around revisiting group interviews. But here's why. We did some research in 2021 looking at hiring managers or who had hiring responsibility inside of restaurants. And what we found was that the average hiring manager spent 30 to 50% of their year in the hiring process. So that means they're spending half of their week trying to interview people to fill the vacant candidate slots inside your restaurant. Might sound a little dramatic, but when we look at seasonal hiring, the numbers checked out across multiple groups, whether it's QSR, full service restaurant, bar, even in the golf club space, we looked at the same numbers as well. So we see a pattern and trend here. Well, here's one of the challenges. For a lot of those hiring managers, when we spoke to them, what we found was that the average show-up rate to an interview is less than 50%. Meaning 50% of the time, the candidate that you follow up with that's committed to show up to your interview, 50% of the time or less, they actually show up. So if we're doing one-to-one interviews, we have days of the week, we have multiple days a month, we have weeks of the year where our managers are waiting for a candidate to come in that doesn't show up. And sure, we could reposition that time by jumping into doing some emails or doing some other work, but we really miss the flow process. You know, we have to start and stop and we don't know who's going to be there and who's not. So I encourage you to revisit group interviews, and I want to break them down because somebody asked me recently, said, Matt, that's a great idea. I get it. I tried it. But explain to me, what does a group interview look like? And there's lots of options. I encourage you, you know your interview process better than anybody. But if you're looking for a way to get started, here's a really simple process, say for an entry-level host position or entry-level server position. I would recommend inviting 8 to 12 people in your interview process. If only half show up, you're safe, but one person or two people can facilitate a group of 8 to 12 comfortably if you get comfortable and practice your pitch. And the pitch is your interview sale to get them to why are they going to join our team. And the first step is when you start your interview is just explain the company. We're just talking to a group of people like a staff meeting, like sitting around a table or a booth with some people from your restaurant, but explain to them what you're all about, what you're looking to hire for. Just get them comfortable in that setting. The next thing is I just ask them a question to introduce themselves. Share your name, share the last restaurant that you worked at, share what you love about the restaurant industry. It doesn't matter. All we're looking for is how do they communicate? We're watching their body language, what they share. If they can't share with you in that setting, how are they going to show up to your guest if it is a host or server position? So once they share, I would then bring them back in and I would set context around a question. So I'd say, for example, we're at a restaurant right now. I'd say, here's the experience we're looking to deliver to our guests and why we're so passionate about it. We have a lot of families. The families are important to us, so we choose to actually serve the kids first. We actually get down on our knees and look the kids in the eyes as we take the order. That's important to us because they actually dictate where the parents go for dinner. We really love that. Not to say that's you and that's what you look for when you go out, but when you do go out in the industry, what's a great experience look like to you? What's the last restaurant that you had a great experience, and what does it look like for you? And when we ask them that question, we can see how they see the industry. We can see their beliefs. We can hear their language. Those simple 3 questions could be a group interview. All we're looking for is communication, body language, and how somebody shows up. And the next thing you can do is you can invite them to a follow-up one-on-one interview. Or what I'd recommend based on the hiring challenges right now is I would move them to one-on-one interviews right from that point. So if you had 8 people in this group interview setting, I would then say now we're moving to 5 or 10-minute one-on-one interviews. I know some of you are going to have to wait, and I really appreciate and value your time, but we're going to break out here. We'll call you over, and then the candidates that you're interested in, you can go one-on-one with right at that moment. Make your hiring decisions as quickly as possible. I know we've all tried group interviews. I encourage you to revisit them. Because again, if we want to change our hiring results, we have to change our behaviors. We have to try something new. Approaching this differently will save your hiring manager a lot of time, but it'll be a more fun process, I promise, if you stick with it.